Have you been interested in starting an art journal? Using your journals, your junk journals, your notebooks as a vessel for your creativity. Together we will decorate a journal and fill its pages with our own creations. When I am starting an art journal, the first thing that I love to do is start out with a paint swatch of my color palette. You've seen me do this a lot in my journals. This is a great way to get comfortable with using paint and not be intimidated by it, especially if you're using your color palette. The benefit of art journaling in a junk journal is that you have different types of papers that you can paint and express your creativity on. For this first piece, I have a vintage piano roll paper, and then I'm taking some scraps from my scrap drawer and then just adding a little bit of script and journaling. So the three keys to an art journal page, especially if you're a beginner, is add some type of color, some type of paper, and some type of script. And that's pretty much what you can pull through and use throughout your entire journal to fill it up. Going on to the second page, I really liked that it had that book script in the back, covering it up a little bit just so some of the words peek through. And I'm using a really pretty forget-me-not blue color and then adding a little bit of white to add some emphasis and bring in the white tones of the flowers that you see on the right, blending it out just a little bit. And you can also use your finger if you want to finger paint, whatever floats your boat. And now I'm taking a little scrap piece of paper and I'm going to adhere it on the top. My adhesive that I use throughout the journal is Mod Podge. It's great to glue things down and to give them a finish on top. And I'm taking a little script from a book page and I'm going to be using that later on for my journaling to inspire me for journaling. Adding a little snippet of paper, I wanted to incorporate a little bit more brown since a lot of the brown was lost by painting over it with the blue. Adding some little mark making with some pencil, and I'm taking my pen and I'm continuing on with the inspiration from the book script. You can use book pages, quotes that you find online, or my journal sentiments that I have in my shop, anything that has scripture on it or a phrase that inspires you to continue to write and to document a thought or a memory. Now I'm taking some pastels in this beautiful robin egg blue color, and I'm taking a white Jelly Roll pen just to add some happy dots. And I'm taking some watercolor in this really lovely kind of like a sunburnt orange. I wanted to contrast that beautiful blue and the white and just add some more color. And on the other page, taking some scraps of paper and leftover packaging. This was a button card from Hobby Lobby, and I'm adding some vintage ledger on the back. And I really enjoyed the look and the color palette that I went with the page. And on the little dots where the buttons were perforated and sewn on, I'm taking some black watercolor paint and filling in those little dots. I'm taking a gray colored pencil to connect some of the dots, kind of like the game that I used to play when I was little. And what I really liked about this card is that I incorporated the color black slowly and gradually into my journal. I usually shy away from using really dark colors such as black in my art journal because if you apply too much, then it's very hard to go back and fix it. So if you're like me, then this is a really great tip to use in your art journals. Now I'm taking a little bit of some red floral washi to add a little pop of color and to connect my little tip-in, and I'm using some of my phrases to put "a happy heart will always bloom." And behind the flip out, what I want to do is a little bit of doodling. So I'm taking a black Inktense pencil and I am just freestyling and free drawing a little flower. Really simple. Like I said, it's just a doodle. It doesn't have to be realistic, especially if you're a beginner. And this allows you to feel comfortable with pen, with pencil to paper. And I'm taking a little paintbrush with some water and I'm going over the Inktense. What's really awesome about it is that it can be activated by water, yet it's ink, so it's archival. So it's a really fun tool to use if you're able to find it where you are. Now I'm taking a micron pen and going in and doing some little mini doodles just to add a little bit more emphasis onto my little drawing. It's a really simple way of gaining confidence in drawing, which you'll see on this page. So continuing on, I have some things already in my pockets to help me and to inspire me on how to decorate my pages. And here I have this little French script paper, and I'm going to be gluing it across the page. I like using this technique when I want to use both pages to create one layout. It kind of connects both of them and letting your eye know that you're looking at two pages for the finished composition. So now I'm taking some light pink paint on the edge, softening it up and blending it with my finger, and then taking a little bit of some pastel to bring in some brighter tones. And now on that pocket, I was thinking of covering up the script. I really love collaging different types of papers on top of each other and adding more depth through my pages. And now I'm taking a little stamp similar to that color that we used for the pastel to add yet another color to pop through. Taking a little music script, and I am doing the same method that I applied with my French script and just making it connect both pages together. And now this is when I have a lot of fun. I am losing my fright of using color and of doodling in my book, and this time I'm doodling with watercolor. For me, this was really intimidating, but once you get flowing with it, once you get comfortable with the colors, it becomes so easy and so relaxing. And since I'm sticking to a color palette, it's really easy for me to draw these little flowers because I know that as long as I stick to the rosy hues and the reds, it'll look overall composed and put together. So now I'm taking a little colored pencil just to outline and make it look like little flowers and not like little paint smudges. And overall, just doodling my little heart out, listening to music and having fun. That is at the end the purpose of an art journal. And my camera actually shut off, so you didn't see me put the little stems, but I just added the little stems and some little leaves, and I'm taking some white paint and making it a little bit more bright in the center of the flower. And I'm taking my tag to do some journaling, taking a Sharpie pen and outlining it so that it didn't get lost in that pocket. A little bit more pastel to make it look a little bit more smooth and blend out the watercolor with the colored pencil. And that is the script phrase that I decided to use. And I'm going to do some journaling or perhaps add a picture or something on the back of the tag. So now moving on to this spread, I'm using, of course, some vintage paper. I find it really inspiring to start out your first element that you put onto your art journal page as vintage paper or a type of paper that sparks something in you. Especially for people who create journals or junk journalers, when you see a scrap piece of paper, it's kind of like a warm hug because you know you're comfortable with it, and then you can expand upon that with paint. So now I'm taking some more paper, sticking to paper on this page, and using some scripts, and I'm going to be creating a little tip in with this. So on the back of the scrapbook paper that I chose, I'm just using tea stained paper, music paper, and creating a tip in my art journal so that I can do some further journaling and painting behind it. So when you're intimidated by your painting or you're perhaps not that comfortable with it, you can hide it behind a tip in. So even if it turns out being not as you imagined, you can still add a tip in and it won't ruin the rest or the flow of your journal from then on. I always suggest, however, accepting the flaws that you make and being happy with the end result all the time, as long as you're having fun with it. I'm taking a little script from Daphne's diary and then some ledger just to do some more collaging on the other side. This is very similar to a glue book by just gluing pieces of paper, but just enhancing it with a little bit of paint and some drawing, and that's essentially what an art journal is. So on my painted side, I'm going to be yet again doodling another flower. Since I am a beginner with this style of art journaling, I want to document and show how I go through my art journal, taking it slow, gaining my confidence by starting off with doodles and incorporating a little bit of color. And then you'll be able to see later on my journals completed, and we'll be able to bloom together and to grow in our art journals. And I think it's really helpful and really fun as well. Now I'm taking a little bit of watercolor. I wanted to add a little bit more blue and add some shading, but I ended up just applying way too much, and what I ended up doing was taking a little rag and kind of taking off the excess paint and going in with my pastel to blend it overall together and not have those streaky lines. It's really just using your tools, and if you mess up, you can always cover it up, paint over it, or even add white paint on the whole thing and start all over. Your art journal is essentially a blank canvas that you can decorate and alter to fit your personality, and there should be no pressure surrounding that. You'll notice that with my art journaling, I treat it as a journal. I still journal inside of it. I still do my script, and I'm never going to change that because that is who I am and that is how I use my journals. Don't be intimidated, just create. Remember that everyone is always a beginner, and from there we all bloom and grow. I hope that you loved this video and that it has inspired you. If you create any pages inspired by this series, make sure to hashtag AmityBloom. I will be sharing daily art journal videos in my Instagram if you'd like to check those out as well. And until next time, I hope that you have an incredible day full of peace and love. Bye-bye.